My 2022 reading goal was 22 books. I've read 15. That means 2 books till I'm back on track, and I'm 68% of the way done. I needed an incentive to read those 2 books, and I'd like to actually get 3 done. That way I can be not only on track but a little ahead. And I thought, well, what better way to motivate myself than an internet challenge? So I'm going to do the 24 hours of reading challenge. Just for clarification, I'm not going to try to read for 24 hours straight. That seems useless. I'm just going to track 24 hours of reading. And I'm going to begin this tonight. The to be read list. Joan Didion, The Year of Magical Thinking. American Psycho. On Earth, We're Briefly Gorgeous. I'm Glad My Mom Died, Jeanette McCurdy. I'm going to start this book tonight because I've heard so much about it, and sometimes I'm a book snob, I'll say it. I don't like to read things that are too incredibly popular. You'll probably never see me holding a Colleen Hoover book just because I have too big of an ego. However, everyone who's read this said it's so good. Shall we? Ready? A little less than 4 hours and 5 minutes to read I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. Dark, funny, easy to read, cyclical, well written, incredibly well written for a debut novel. I mean, this is a nonfiction memoir, but remarkable. She should deserve all the praise that she's getting for this. I was incredibly impressed. Her story's nuts. You think that you know what the trauma is going to be, and then there's just another traumatic experience that just pops right in, and the reoccurring themes, the reoccurring references, things that you think are irrelevant details that come full circle are mentioned again and again, and I thought this was great. I feel like I should say that if you were easily triggered, for sure look up the trigger warnings because there's a handful of them. And the next thing I'm gonna read is what the camera is sitting on right now. Please don't look at my room, it's really messy. Shh, don't you know I'm filming? The next book I'm gonna read is also on loss. This one's on the loss of a mother. And then I believe this is on either a divorce or death of a husband. I can't remember. So Joan Didion writes fiction novels, but she also has a handful of biographies as well, and this is one of the biographies, and it's called The Year of Magical Thinking. I'm gonna start this one tomorrow so that I can marinate on finishing this, but also I'm going out. Imagine if this is like what I sat at home reading in. Incredible. Like I said, don't look at my room. Alright, I'm also too short for this frame. Okay, how do I begin? This book scooped out my heart, my lungs, my stomach, my throat, and hollowed me. I left this book feeling broken. This brought me right back to my mom's death. I completely relived it moment by moment. She doesn't leave out a detail. And I felt the entire process with her. This is the story of losing her husband, cardiac arrest, without any warning, and that's how my mom was lost as well. So it's a death that you weren't prepared for, and the fact that it can happen on just an ordinary day. It really depicts how raw and vulnerable you feel after what was supposed to be just an ordinary day. This book really did something to me. I mean, I was like, I don't know. Let me read to you some of the things that I underlined. I didn't do that for Jeanette's book. Also, not that books should be compared, but the main plot of Jeanette's book, obviously there was several subplots. As there's a subplot in this that I didn't particularly care about, but I'll get to that in a second. Jeanette's book was about losing her mom, and Joan's book is about losing her husband. And Jeanette's is just funny, and this book is devastating. Like, that book, I'm pointing to Jeanette's book over there. I'm Glad My Mom Died is so devastating that you start laughing. I wasn't laughing. I was being broken into pieces reading this, but let me read you some of the things that I thought were memorable. Quick little things that I related to. No spoilers, FYI. I'm gonna try to not give any spoilers in this video. As a viewer, I would like you to read these books and then join my Geneva, and then we can talk about them in the reading section, because I want to talk about I'm Glad My Mom Died and exchange with some of you the parts where I actually laughed out loud. I want to have that conversation with someone, so I'll leave that down below. One thing I resonated with is that a lot of times when grieving, people they normally like, they often turn from, and I felt that with a handful of people where I just, during the process, people that I loved and people that I genuinely to this day still love, I turned from during the time, and no one should ever be forced upon those in grief. Then it continues to say, at such time to some people, companionship is comfort, others shrink from their dearest friends. And I related to that when my mom passed. Also, there was a part where it said that no one should take offense to being dismissed to a person grieving, which I also dealt with. Okay, now that I'm looking at the things I underlined, they're not revolutionary, more just things that I related to on a personal level, so even reading them out loud feels very unimpactful. For example, I underlined, I thought I could not do the evening, but when the time came, the evening did itself. There's one page where I underlined various parts discussing not wanting the year to finish, because though as time passes it gets easier, the image of the event of the death, so of her husband, in my case of my mom, it becomes less immediate and less raw, and the sense of my mom alive will become more remote and softened and transmuted into whatever serves my life best without her. And it's painful because the farther I get from my mom's life, the more she just becomes a memory, and that's a really hard space to navigate. My mom was my mom and was a present figure in my life for 25 years, and I've only had 1 year where she hasn't been in my life. The percentage is a lot smaller, but as time goes on, that percentage is going to get larger and larger and larger, and I'm gonna get a hazier and hazier view of her inevitably, and I'm not going to be as inclined to accidentally call her and then remember. That stuff's going to eventually stop happening, and she's going to feel like a less immediate presence in my life and more of this mudgy memory. Whew. Oh my god, whoever's just watching this video is like, I just came to see if someone could read for 24 hours, and I'm over here being like, so when I lost my mom. But this book has a subplot that I didn't care about. The subplot I actually don't want to get into because I think it will inevitably spoil something, but I didn't particularly care for it. I love the beginning of this book. The middle got a little slow at some points. Jeanette, her book was so quick, even though I technically read this faster. This was interesting. This is a very dry, removed way to describe death, that a single person is missing from you and the whole world is empty. You know, from an outside perspective, really, there's this whole world going on and just one's gone and now your world's destroyed. But insider looking out, yeah, that's exactly what's happening. But then it's continued to say that dolphins refuse to eat after the death of a mate, and geese will search for their lost mate until they themselves become disoriented and die. So it's not just a human thing. Animals of all kinds grieve, and it's really amazing. So that is the book that I spent my last 4 hours reading, and during the process of reading it, at the beginning, I started to have physical emotions that reminded me of the grieving process. So irritability. I was a bitch to be around. I took a little afternoon walk with 2 of my friends, and I was in the process of grief. It almost felt like I was right there back in it. As I said, it felt like I was reliving it, and I was irritable, and then I was numb, and then I was angry and sad, and then I felt hollowed and broken. And it's amazing that this is all just because of words on a page. Joan Didion, my God, intense. I didn't shed a tear though. I was waiting for the release. I started and finished this book all in one day, and I was waiting. You know, I was seeing that I had 50 pages left. I had 15 pages left. I had 5 pages left, and I was like, when are the tears gonna come? When am I gonna lose it? And I didn't. So I was planning on reading American Psycho next, but I've heard that this book is completely devastating. This is A Little Life by, I actually don't know how to pronounce this author. Also, this book is really thick, and now that I'm 2 books in, my reading has increased in speed, and I feel that I could maybe power through this. However, my reading is only going to increase in speed if I read this before that. Just thinking out loud. You'll find out soon enough with the magic of editing. 1, this is the book I ended up reading. 2, my hair is a different color. We're lighter. This is A Little Life by Hania Yanagihara. This is a absolute heart-wrenching tragedy, but it's so incredibly beautiful because there's so much love in this life story. There's so much love. It's the story of these 4 boys, all kind of centering around one in particular, because these boys love Jude. I love Jude so much, and he's definitely struggled the most out of the 4 of them, and everyone's rooting for him. You know, it's an underdog story where, you know, this guy has had one of the hardest lives known to man, but he's brilliant and such a fantastic person that everyone sees the light in him that he hasn't yet found for himself. And I don't want to give away anything, but yeah, I also should say, as with apparently every book I like to read, you should check the trigger warnings. I think the 3 books that I've read in this challenge, which the challenge is over, by the way, 16 hours. 16 hours, this is how long it took. It's 814 pages. I would give this 5 stars. I would give all 3 books that I read in this series 5 stars. I'm not trying to read the world's saddest books. Like, I'm not trying to be a masochist, but oh my God. Because of the sheer length of this book, you become incredibly invested in this cast, these characters. I can't believe these words came out of someone's brain. I can't believe this story. I can't believe someone wrote this story. I know that it's based off of a real person, but the fact that this came out of someone's head it's so well written. It's so well written. I'm kind of at a loss for words because I don't even know if my words can do this justice, because the other books are a little bit shorter. They took me 4.5 hours. This, I spent so much time with each character that I've grown to love them so deeply. And I know that BAM in Brooklyn had a live performance of A Little Life going on, and I'm going to New York soon, but I think I'm gonna miss it, and that was gonna be my Christmas gift to myself. So hopefully they'll come to LA or something, because I need to watch it go down. This book plays in your head like a movie. It is so incredibly vivid and believable and detailed. I'm speechless. I don't know what to say other than read this. I will have a link for this book and the other 2 down below. You should read all of them. You really should. Joan, My Year of Magical Thinking, that hollowed me out more personally because that was detailing a current wound that hasn't healed in my life. Whereas thankfully, a lot of the dark trauma that some of these characters suffer from, I've been fortunate enough to relate to, or have experienced that personally. I've recommended it to my dad, to my grandma to read. Okay, and you know how I was saying during the Joan Didion portion that I want you guys to join my Geneva so that we can talk about these? I've been thinking about that, and that's not going to work because there's going to be spoilers, and I want to talk about the juice in these stories without spoiling it for a future reader. So I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do about that. How I can have some sort of live stream event or something, because I would love to have it for all of these books and other ones, because I'm such a reader, and I know that I'm not very involved in the reading communities on social media, but I want to dip my toe into it because I am reading, so it's something that I have a desire for. Making content at least every once in a while that involves books and reading and recommendations. So if you have any video recommendations for this type of content or other content that you want to see, you can comment them down below. I also am a podcast host. That's my real favorite thing, and I have made moves from not just audio but video now with 3 angles. So you have me in the studio with an angle of my face, an angle of my guest face, and then an angle of both of us together. And my first episode with video format like that is with fashion model Ella Snyder, and she talks about the glamorous and not so glamorous sides of the fashion modeling industry and what Fashion Week looks like in New York versus Paris versus Milan. And she's also the face of Diesel right now, so she has a lot of cool information to share. So if you haven't listened to that episode already, you can either listen to it on Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to podcasts, or you can watch it on my YouTube channel, and I just posted it, so it should be up. And other than that, subscribe if you like my channel, and I have a link down below that has all the places I am on social media. Please read these books, and I hope you like this video. Hope you like this challenge. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.